At the beginning of the movie, we are introduced to Vic, a man who arrives home after a bicycle ride. His wife, Melinda, sits outside the house, watching him with a curious gaze. In the following scene, we see their young daughter listening to her favorite song, which irritates Melinda, prompting her to shout at the child. Vic enters the room, and Melinda asks him to choose a dress for her. Later, she requests that he fetch her black shoes, which he does without hesitation, demonstrating his willingness to comply with her every demand. The couple attends a party, where they mingle with friends and drink beer. During the gathering, Melinda spots her old friend Joe and quickly becomes engrossed in conversation with him. Vic observes their interaction and soon witnesses Melinda leading Joe to a private area where they begin to kiss. Despite catching Vic's eye, Melinda continues her flirtations unabashedly. Not satisfied with just that, she later dances on top of a piano to draw attention and then plays the piano, entertaining everyone. Despite her outrageous behavior, Vic smiles at her as if nothing out of the ordinary has occurred. Later that night, Joe approaches Vic to thank him for allowing him to spend time with Melinda. In response, Vic brings up the name Martin McRae, a man who recently went missing, and subtly suggests that he was responsible for the man's disappearance. Joe initially laughs it off, thinking it's a joke, but Vic's serious demeanor implies otherwise, warning Joe to reconsider his actions. Joe hurriedly leaves, while Melinda, unimpressed with Vic's behavior towards her friend, expresses her discontent. That evening, as Vic talks with their babysitter, Melinda enters the kitchen, provocatively without a shirt. Displeased, Vic tries to send her away, which annoys Melinda, causing her to leave in a huff. Through these interactions, it becomes clear that Melinda is a careless and selfish woman. Meanwhile, we learn that Vic has an unusual hobby. He keeps snails as pets. A few days later, Vic meets up with his friends and learns that his threat to Joe about Martin McRae is now common knowledge. His friends also express concern about Melinda's behavior, noting how she flaunts her actions in front of Vic. Back at home, Melinda is informed of this and demands that Vic apologize to Joe. She invites Joe to dinner on Friday as a gesture of goodwill. On the appointed day, Joe arrives and is greeted by a nervous Vic. When Joe inquires about Melinda, Vic jokingly responds that she isn't home. Vic then offers Joe some seafood and engages him in conversation, only to learn that Joe is allergic to seafood, a detail Melinda had deliberately kept from him. At dinner, Vic makes grilled cheese sandwiches for Joe, while Melinda behaves provocatively, seemingly to provoke Vic. She then sends Vic to put their daughter to bed, leaving her alone with Joe. After telling the bedtime story, Vic returns to find Melinda and Joe together, indulging in flirtatious behavior. Joe then demands an apology from Vic for the earlier threat about Martin McRae, which Vic coldly reveals was no joke. He orders Joe an Uber, signaling the end of their strained evening. Later, at a party, Vic and Melinda converse with a writer who makes unsettling comments about Martin McRae and Vic's past. Vic, feeling rebellious, dances with another woman, causing Melinda to become visibly jealous. She later makes advances toward Vic while he is driving, heightening tensions between them. While watching their daughter play, Vic receives a call from his bank regarding Melinda's account. He learns that she has sent $3,000 to a pianist, prompting him to investigate further. His research leads him to discover that the pianist is not only an expert, but also exceptionally attractive. Vic witnesses Melinda flirting with the pianist and grows increasingly concerned. That night, Vic confronts Melinda when she arrives home, visibly drunk. As he drives their daughter home, he sees the pianist walking with flowers that later appear in his own home. This unsettling discovery only deepens Vic's suspicions about Melinda's fidelity and her ongoing affair. Vic spends most of his time at home while Melinda works and continues her affair with the pianist. When Vic confronts her about her actions, staying out all night and using his money to cheat, Melinda remains indifferent to his feelings. She bluntly tells him that she enjoys amazing nights with the pianist. The following week, Melinda invites the pianist to a party at their home. Vic, trying to maintain composure, shakes hands with the pianist, all while witnessing his wife being intimate with another man. Melinda's disregard for Vic's feelings is apparent as she engages in her affair openly, even in his presence. As the rain starts, everyone moves indoors, and the party continues. The pianist, however, is nowhere to be found. Melinda goes to check on him and discovers him dead in the pool, screaming in horror. The guests rush outside to attempt a rescue, but their efforts are in vain. When the police arrive to investigate, Melinda accuses Vic of the pianist's murder. Although the police question Vic, they find no evidence to support her claim. Vic asks Melinda if she is afraid of him, and she coldly responds that he has ruined their lives because of her act. Later, while riding his bicycle, Vic envisions Melinda with another man and imagines himself taking drastic actions. As tensions rise, Vic hosts a dinner for friends and confronts them about the rumors of him being a killer. He frequently argues with Melinda over these suspicions. One day, Vic discovers several cameras in Melinda's car and sees her with a man who introduces himself as a psychologist. Melinda and Vic have an argument when Vic learns they hired a private detective to investigate him. Vic later finds out that Melinda is seeing yet another man, Tony. When Tony visits, Melinda greets him with an affectionate hug, and Vic learns that Tony was the first American she slept with. Tony laughs and blushes, causing Vic to feel increasingly unsettled. During the evening, Melinda and Tony dance provocatively in front of Vic and later go upstairs to Vic's bedroom, catching each other's gaze in a charged moment. In the following days, Vic arranges a meeting with Tony, inviting him to a remote location under the pretense of discussing Melinda. After questioning Tony about his relationship with Melinda, Vic violently attacks him with a heavy rock, killing him. Vic then disposes of Tony's body by weighing it down with rocks and dumping it in a body of water to hide the evidence. Returning home, Vic feels a twisted sense of satisfaction. The next day, Vic and Melinda go on a picnic to the same location where Tony's body was dumped. Vic is disturbed to see the body floating in the river. That night, he learns that Melinda is involved with another man named Don. She invites Don to sleep in her room and confesses her love for him, leaving Vic grappling with the unraveling chaos of his life. The following day, Vic returns to the remote riverbank to deal with the aftermath of his actions. He struggles with Tony's body, attempting to push it further into the water to ensure it is fully submerged. As he wrestles with the corpse, trying to fix his mistake, an old man unexpectedly appears at the river's edge. The man's eyes widen in shock as he notices the hand protruding from the water. Panic overtakes the old man. He turns and starts to run, his footsteps thudding against the wet ground. Vic, realizing the situation is slipping out of control, quickly mounts his bicycle and gives chase. The pursuit is frantic and desperate, with Vic weaving through the trees and rough terrain, determined to catch the old man before he can alert anyone. The chase intensifies, with the old man stumbling and Vic pushing himself harder. Eventually, the old man's flight ends in a tragic accident. He loses his footing and falls, seriously injuring himself. Vic, feeling a mix of urgency and dread, checks to make sure the old man is incapacitated but alive. He then heads back to the riverbank, where he hastily tries to make the scene look less suspicious. Back at home, the atmosphere is tense. Melinda, meanwhile, is at Vic's workplace, where she uncovers Tony's wallet hidden among Vic's belongings. This discovery increases her suspicions about Vic's actions. She takes the wallet but decides to investigate further rather than confront Vic immediately. Later, in a chilling parallel to the movie's opening scene, we see Vic at home in the same unsettling routine. The camera lingers on him, capturing his weariness and the grim reality of his situation. In the living room, Melinda is seen methodically placing Tony's ID into the fireplace. She watches as the flames consume the identification, ensuring that any potential evidence linking Tony to the events is destroyed. Her actions are calculated, revealing her deep involvement in the cover-up. Melinda's cold indifference is evident as she makes no attempt to report the discovery of the wallet or Tony's disappearance to the authorities. The movie closes with a sense of unresolved tension and unease, highlighting the depths of deception and moral decay that have unfolded. The final scenes leave the audience with a haunting ambiguity, questioning the true extent of the characters' involvement and the consequences of their actions.